Have you ever sat alone in a quiet room, looking at your child from a distance, and quietly asked yourself, why is my child this way? Why are they so rebellious, so stubborn? Why are they closed off, withdrawn, so guarded all the time? And then, in the stillness, a wave of worry rises in your chest, along with a quiet ache. Did I do something wrong? Did I miss something in the way I raised them? Over the past 30 years, I've spoken with so many parents, from strong, no-nonsense fathers to endlessly devoted mothers. And they often come to me with the same question: why doesn't my child listen to me? I love them so much, but every time I try to talk, we end up fighting. So I ask them one thing: what do you say about your child every day? And the answers usually sound like this: he's so stubborn, Venerable. She's overly sensitive. My kid is just lazy. He doesn't even try. You see, in Buddhism, words aren't just sounds, they're energy. Every word we speak, especially about someone we love, is like a spiritual seed dropped into the soil of their consciousness. And if we keep repeating the same labels, the same complaints, we're not just expressing frustration, we're shaping the karma of the very person we're trying to protect. A mother in her 60s once told me, "I've called my son hard-headed since he was little. I always said, he never listens. He's impossible to raise." And sure enough, when her son grew up, he became exactly that. Distant, unreachable. He didn't listen to anyone, and he pushed his family away. Now, this same mother looks at me with tears in her eyes and whispers, "Did I shape him into that just by the way I spoke about him?" The Buddha once taught, speech creates karma. Words don't disappear, they quietly take form. Even if your child doesn't hear you directly, your words ripple through the energy field of your home. They seep into your tone, your eyes, the way you respond to them. When you say, "He never puts in any effort," or "she's not smart," you unconsciously begin to treat your child as though that's already the truth. And children, pure energetic mirrors, will reflect that belief back to you, even if you didn't mean to cause harm. So if words can plant seeds of hurt, they can also plant seeds of light. What if, every day, instead of saying, "He's too stubborn," you said, "He's learning how to stand on his own"? Instead of saying, "She's too sensitive," you said, "She has a tender heart deeply in tune with the world." It's not about sugarcoating reality. It's about lighting a path forward with compassion and belief so your child knows where to walk. I remember a single father who came to me once. He was working 2 jobs to raise his teenage son, and every night, he came home exhausted and short-tempered. He said to me, "My boy's beyond saving, Venerable. He's gone off the deep end." I asked, "Have you ever tried saying something good about him, even once a day?" He gave a bitter laugh. "There's nothing good to say." I didn't scold him. I just invited him to try. Even if the boy couldn't say one positive thing every day. Say it in front of the altar. Say it in front of the mirror. Say it to your own heart. 2 months later, he came back to me with tears in his eyes. "My son's talking to me again, Venerable. He's not locking himself in his room anymore. And he's learning how to say sorry." You see, you don't need to change your child overnight. You just need to change the energy you send them every single day. Every kind word, no matter how small, is a seed of light. And light always finds its way through, even in the darkest soil. So I invite you, begin today. Every morning before your child wakes, whisper in your heart, "You are light. You are healing. You are on your way." And every night, before bed, instead of worry or regret, offer a quiet blessing. May you be surrounded by compassion. May the universe wrap you in its care. And may you find your way back home to yourself. And one day you'll see not only will your child begin to transform, but you will become the parent of light you were always meant to be. I want you to imagine something with me. Picture a river flowing down from a mountain, winding its way through the valley below. Now, imagine that you are standing at the headwaters where the stream begins, and downstream are your children, your grandchildren, and all those who will come after you. If the water is pure and clear at the source, then everything it touches downstream is refreshed and nourished. But if the source becomes polluted, if toxins, mud, and waste enter upstream, then no matter how hard you try to clean the water later, it will always carry that weight. Have you ever felt that in your own family? That your children or grandchildren are carrying things that don't quite make sense? Maybe one was born with chronic illness. Another struggles with anxiety or depression from a very young age. Some carry a constant, unshakable fear, despite being raised in a loving home with all their needs met. Many people come to me with the same question buried in their hearts. Why is my child suffering like this? I've tried to be a good person. I've raised them the best I could. And gently I tell them, it may be that your child is not only carrying their own karma, but is also carrying yours, your parents, and even the unresolved karma of your ancestors. In Buddhism, we call this family karma, the collective karmic energy of a lineage. No one is born as a completely blank slate. We each carry imprints from generations past, habits of thinking, emotional patterns, even unresolved grief or trauma that hasn't been healed yet. One woman shared a story I will never forget. In her family, 3 generations had suffered from mental illness. She tried everything, therapy, medication, changing environments, but nothing truly helped. It wasn't until she turned inward that things began to shift. Every day, she began a quiet practice of chanting, repentance, and meditation, not to pray for a miracle, but to lighten the karmic weight within herself, to slowly untangle what had been knotted in her bloodline. And then, something changed. Her youngest child, who had always been silent and withdrawn, started talking again. He smiled more. He asked to enroll in a vocational program. No one could explain why, but she knew. She had stopped trying to fix her child and began healing herself. That was the purification at the source. Have you ever heard the saying, parents are the gateway of karma? Children are merely those who walk through it? From a Buddhist perspective, parents don't just give birth to a child physically. They transmit energy patterns, unresolved wounds, and unspoken fears through their minds, habits, and way of being. So, if your heart still holds resentment toward your own parents, if there are wounds that haven't healed, or words that were never forgiven, then it's no surprise your children might grow up carrying echoes of those same scars, even if you never meant for it to happen. I know it can feel unfair. Why should our children suffer for what our ancestors did? But my dear friend, this isn't punishment. It's an invitation, an opportunity for you to be the one who ends the cycle. You are the one standing at the gate. You can be the one who says, it stops with me. You don't have to be a saint. You don't need to climb a mountain. All you need is a few minutes each day to sit in silence, to breathe deeply, and to offer a simple, heartfelt intention. May the burdens of my ancestors and my own be dissolved in the light. May my children and those who come after grow up lighter in love rather than fear. I've seen families transform this way, not with expensive programs, not with loud declarations, but with quiet commitment. A mother, a father, a grandparent, choosing to be the beginning of a new stream. Because as the Dhammapada says, the mind is the forerunner of all things. When the mind is pure, the words and actions that follow are like a shadow that never leaves. If you begin to cleanse your own mind, to live with mindfulness, to soften your anger, your greed, your fears, then your child, without ever being told, will begin to shift too. Not because you forced them, but because the energy flowing to them has become lighter. You can't change the past, but you can be the one who ends the old karmic chain in your family. You are the headwaters. And when you are clear, the whole river clears. Your children, your grandchildren, and even those not yet born will drink from a cleaner stream, one where the seeds of peace can finally take root. And know this, you are not alone on this journey. I'm here with you, and so are many others walking beside you, one mindful step at a time. I want to ask you something. When you look into your child's eyes, what do you see? Do you see a child who needs to be shaped, corrected, molded? Do you see a reflection of yourself, a continuation of your identity, your legacy? Or do you see a soul walking its own path filled with challenges, mistakes, and quiet pain? You know, as a monk who has spent over half a lifetime walking beside families searching for healing, I've listened to hundreds of stories, and in each one a quiet truth becomes clear. We often see our children as something we own as extensions of our ego. But in the Buddhist teachings, every child, every human being is a separate soul with their own karma, their own journey, and their own lessons, some of which we may never fully understand. There was once a woman in her 52nd who came to see me. She said, "Venerable, my daughter, she's nothing like me. She's withdrawn, always sad, and sometimes I feel like I've failed as a mother." I didn't respond right away. I gently asked, "Does your daughter remind you of someone from your past?" She paused, her eyes filled with tears. "When I was young," she said, "I had a best friend. She was kind, but always carried a quiet sadness. I always wondered if I'd hurt her, and then we lost touch." I smiled and told her, "Maybe she has returned, not so you can fix what was broken, but so you can learn how to love without trying to change someone." You see, in Buddhism, we don't believe that parents and children meet by chance. It's karma. Invisible threads woven across lifetimes where we were once family, friends, lovers, or even the cause of each other's pain. So perhaps your child has returned as a friend from another life to repay kindness, or to remind you of joy. Or perhaps they are your teacher sent to show you patience, humility, and unconditional love. One father once told me, "Venerable, my son is only 7, but sometimes he says things like he's lived 100 years. He reminds me to breathe. He calms me down when I'm angry. And the strange thing is, whenever I'm sad, he comes and hugs me, even before I say a word." I told him, "Your son didn't come here just to be raised. He came to help you become the better version of yourself." Have you ever felt that? That maybe you thought you were the one teaching your child, but in truth, they are teaching you compassion when they don't fit your expectations, teaching you patience when they push your boundaries, teaching you forgiveness when they mirror the parts of you that once clashed with your own parents. We often want our children to become something more obedient, more successful, more happy. But we rarely pause and ask, am I seeing them through the eyes of the soul or through the eyes of my ego? The Buddha taught, all beings possess Buddha, nature. That means every child carries light within them, even if they are small, immature, or rebellious. What they need isn't control. What they need is someone to walk beside them, a companion on the path of karma and learning. I want to invite you to try something. Next time your child does something that frustrates, you pause for a moment. And instead of thinking, why are they like this? Ask yourself, what is this soul here to teach me? Maybe it's patience. Maybe it's the healing of an old wound inside you. Maybe It's the chance to break an inherited karmic pattern by choosing love instead of reaction. A 70-year-old woman once told me, "My son is 40, but he still acts like a boy. I used to be upset for years, but lately, I've learned to love him not as a burden, but as a soul who's a little lost. And I've stopped blaming him." I looked at her and said, "You've already begun to awaken because that kind of love is no longer conditional. Children are not possessions. They are not trophies for us to show off or wounds for us to hide. They are karmic companions, walking alongside us through unfinished lessons. If you can begin to see your child with the eyes of a spiritual seeker, grateful for their presence, no matter what form or temperament they carry, you'll feel a great weight lifted from your heart. And that shift in you will make their path lighter too. You don't have to teach your child who to become. You just have to be the light beside them as they slowly find their way home to themselves. I know there are moments as a parent when you feel completely helpless. You've given your best, your time, your love, even the most precious years of your life. And still, there may come a day when you have to watch your child slip into depression, fail, or lose their way. And in the silence of your heart, you ask, "What else can I possibly do, Bhante?" I've heard that question so many times. And today, I want to offer you a teaching the Buddha gave over 2,500 years ago. Merit is a powerful form of energy that can transform karma, and love is the most profound way to transfer it. In Buddhism, there's a beautiful concept called dedicating merit. It means that any act of goodness you do, whether it's offering food to someone in need, chanting even a short prayer, reciting the Buddha's name, or something as simple as helping a stranger with kindness, can become a healing force if you offer it with intention to someone you love. You don't have to be perfect to help your child. You just need a sincere heart and the willingness to begin practicing with a wholesome intention. Because as the Buddha taught, the mind is the forerunner of all things. With intention, we create the world. A single pure thought, paired with compassionate action, can cross every boundary, even time and distance. I once met a mother in her 60s, living in California. She said to me, "Bhante, my son is 25. He's been addicted to drugs for years. I've screamed at him, cried, even cut him off completely. Nothing worked." So I asked her, "Have you ever dedicated merit to him?" She paused and looked confused. "What do you mean, Bhante?" I told her, starting today, whatever good you do, even the smallest thing, chanting a short mantra, helping a stranger, sitting quietly for 10 minutes of meditation each morning, end it with a whisper in your heart. May this act of goodness ease the suffering my child is carrying. That's all. No forcing, no fixing, just steady practice. She did it for 3 months. She didn't try to change her son. She stopped blaming him. She simply changed herself day by day and dedicated her merit to him. And one day, out of the blue, her phone rang. It was her son. "Mom," he said, "I'm trying to quit, and this time I really want to do it." She cried as she told me the story, not because of some miracle, but because something real had shifted. An invisible thread of energy had begun to heal, starting from a mother's heart. You see, not everything we do gives us results right away, but no act of goodness is ever wasted. Each time you walk in mindfulness, each time you breathe with compassion, you are lifting some part of the karmic weight your child may be carrying. Dedicating merit isn't begging the Buddha for favors. It's a quiet, powerful commitment from within you. I will walk this path of light, and I offer this light to the one I love. It's like a candle. It doesn't have to burn brightly, just enough to ignite another flame. In the Anguttara Nikaya, The Buddha taught, when one does a good deed, not only do they receive its blessings, but they may also share that blessing with others if done with a sincere heart. That means you can help shift your child's karma not with yelling, not with pressure, but with your own heartfelt practice, offered every day with humility. As a monk, I've seen families on the edge of despair, mothers battling illness, fathers crushed by loss, children completely lost. But all it took was one person in the family who made the choice to practice with sincerity day after day. And slowly, the atmosphere in the home began to shift. From harshness to softness. From tension to listening. From hopelessness to healing. Most people don't realize this, but just like karma can be inherited, so can merit. If you are the first person in your family line to begin practicing, then you, my friend, are the one who opens the path for blessings to flow through generations. You cannot live your child's life. You cannot carry all their pain. But you can build merit, and you can offer it to them like a gentle breeze blowing through their spirit, again and again. You don't have to tell anyone, just you every night before bed. Sit quietly, place your hands together, and whisper something like this. May all the good I've done today, a single smile, a mindful breath, a moment of kindness, be offered to the child I love. May their burdens be lifted. May light reach the places I cannot. And please believe this. If that whisper comes from a place of deep love and genuine intention, it will not be lost in this universe. Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt cold, even though the temperature outside wasn't cold at all? Or stepped into a space where no one says a word, yet something feels heavy, like you're moving through invisible smoke? And then there are those little homes, nothing fancy, nothing expensive. But the moment you walk in, you feel lighter, like you can finally breathe, like you're safe. It's not the furniture, it's not the paint color, it's the energy of the space. And I want you to remember this. Your child feels it too, every single day, not through words, but through the emotional climate you create in your home. In Buddhism, we often say, the heart of the mother and father is the climate that raises the child's soul. A child doesn't grow up in a vacuum. We like to think our children will be shaped by our words, by school, by books. But the truth is, they grow up in the atmosphere of the home. And that atmosphere is shaped by you. If your home is filled daily with tension, sighs, silent resentment, or constant criticism, you don't need to raise your voice or hand. Your child will still feel unsafe. They may withdraw or act out. I've met so many families like that. On the surface, everything looks fine. No screaming, no hitting. But under the surface, there's a quiet field of suffering. And children, with their sensitive hearts, absorb that energy like sponges. One mother in New Jersey told me her 9-year-old son no longer wanted to come home after school. He didn't say why, but every afternoon, right before dismissal, he'd get anxious, moody, restless. She told me, "Bante, I love him. I don't yell. I cook dinner every day." So I asked, "What are you thinking about while you cook?" She paused. "I'm usually worried about money. I sigh a lot. Sometimes I turn the television on just to forget the emptiness." And I said gently, "Then your son is growing up in an atmosphere of fear and unease, even if no one says a word. You don't have to turn your home into a monastery, but you can make it a place where people can breathe, a place your child walks into and feels safe without even knowing why." Sometimes it only takes a few small things. Soft meditation music in the morning, a gentle candle in the evening, A dinner where no one gets judged by a glance. A long hug instead of a lecture. And most importantly, a grown-up who knows when to be quiet. Silence not to avoid, but to create space. Space where compassion can settle into the walls. I've lived in many monasteries, places where silence is the very air we breathe. No one speaks too much. But the moment you step through the gates, you feel something soften inside. Your breath slows down. Why? Because someone has been holding peaceful energy there. Someone has walked mindfully in the mornings, swept the courtyard with presence, chanted with gratitude. You don't see those things, but you feel them. And you can do the same right inside your own home. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha taught, a person who dwells in loving kindness brings peace to all beings around them. If your heart is at peace, your home will gradually become a place of healing. You don't need to say a lot. You don't need to be perfect. Just stay grounded, stay kind, and let your breath guide you. I don't know where you are on your parenting journey. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you feel like your children no longer listen. But try starting again. Not with words, but with the energy you bring into your home each day. Be the first one to keep the air clear, not by changing the world, but by making your home a place where anyone who walks in feels seen, feels safe, feels loved without needing to earn it. And if your child is shutting down, maybe it's not because something is wrong with them. Maybe the air around them is just too heavy, or their heart to open. So lighten it, breathe peace into the space, and trust that they will feel it, even if they don't yet have the words to say so. Maybe you've prayed before, in that desperate moment, when your child was in pain, when your family was falling apart, or when you just didn't know what else to hold on to. And in your heart, you whispered, "Dear God, dear Buddha, please save my child." I've heard so many people say that. And every time, I don't tell them to stop praying. I simply smile and ask a quiet question. Are you praying out of desperation or out of awareness? Because in Buddhism, prayer isn't about begging for a miracle. It's a conscious act of realignment. You see, most people only pray when they're at rock bottom, when there's nothing left but a lifeline to grasp. But the Buddha taught, no one outside you can save you. You yourself must walk the path. So, why do we still pray? Because true prayer, in the Buddhist sense, isn't asking someone to fix your life for you. It's a sacred reminder that there's still a spark of light inside you worth returning to. I've seen parents, mothers, and fathers pray for their children through tears. Late at night, when they found out their child had fallen into drugs, lost everything, or was drowning in heartbreak. And I understand, those prayers are not meaningless. But if we can shift our prayer from desperation to mindful presence, the miracle doesn't come from outside. It comes from the quiet transformation happening within you. A mother once came to my monastery. She brought a photo of her son and sobbed as she spoke. "Bhante, my son used to be so bright, but after the divorce, it's like he disappeared. He locks himself in his room. He's depressed, addicted to gaming. He's lost his will to live. I've prayed and prayed, but nothing's changed." I didn't ask her to stop. I didn't give her advice. I simply handed her a mala and said, "Every morning before sunrise, sit quietly for 10 minutes. Don't ask for anything. Just be still and offer this silent prayer in your heart. May the karmic burdens in my child grow lighter, and may the light in this mother's heart grow strong enough to guide him home." She did it. For 21 days, no expectations, no rush, just presence. And then, on the 22nd day, something shifted. Her son walked out of his room, looked her in the eye, and asked if she could make him a warm meal. For the first time in 3 years, they sat and ate together. She returned to the temple, crying again, but this time, not from helplessness. This time, from renewed faith. You see, prayer doesn't always change your child right away, but prayer changes you. And you are the one who must begin the transformation, so the path can open for your child to follow. Because karma in a family doesn't come from one person, it flows through the shared energy of the household. When a parent starts meditating, chanting, practicing mindfulness, that energy seeps into the very air of the home. Even if your child doesn't practice, even if they don't sit beside you, they can feel it. A child doesn't change just because you lecture them. They change when they feel safe, in the presence of someone who's truly awake. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha said, "Mind precedes all things." When the mind is pure, everything becomes pure. True prayer is the act of returning your own mind to that clarity. When you sit down, light a stick of incense, or simply press your hands together in front of a Buddha image, you're not asking for a miracle. You're calling forth the light that already lives inside you. And that light, that's what will guide your child home. I've lived long enough to see it. No prayer is ever wasted when it's offered from a place of deep presence. No spiritual act is ever small when done with sincerity, again and again. 1 minute of meditation a day, 1 gentle morning prayer, 1 look of compassion instead of a look of blame. Those things, over time, they soften karma, not by force, but by presence. If you're worried about your child, don't just say, "I feel helpless." Start with 1 small act. Sit quietly, close your eyes, and say in your heart, "May the light I'm living today be bright enough to warm the child I love." Then breathe in and breathe out, and do it again tomorrow. Don't pray from desperation. Pray from unconditional love, with a heart as steady as a still lake. Because when you become the light, sooner or later, your child will see the way back. Have you ever looked into your child's eyes and quietly wondered, why does my child seem so sad, even though they're still so young? Or maybe you've watched them explode with anger for no reason, get hurt too easily, or always seem on edge, and you sighed to yourself, "I don't understand them anymore." I understand that feeling, because I've sat with hundreds of parents, from the stoic and stern to the gentle and self-sacrificing, and they all carry the same quiet question in their hearts. I've tried so hard, so why is my child still suffering? And sometimes a parent breaks down in tears when I ask gently, "Have you ever looked into yourself and asked, what in me is still waiting to be healed?" You see, there's a teaching in Buddhism that many overlook. Children are not just students of their parents. They are mirrors of their parents' inner world. However your mind is, your child reflects it, sometimes painfully, sometimes perfectly. Not through words, not through logic, but through the energy you carry into your home each day. If you've been holding on to unhealed anger, your child may become reactive, defiant, or explosive. If you've buried pain so deep that it has no voice, your child may carry it in their body through chronic illness, anxiety, or a heavy silence. A mother once shared this with me. "Bhante, my daughter is always sick, and doctors can't explain it. She's only 12, and she's already had 3 surgeries. I love her so much, but I feel helpless." I didn't respond with theory. I simply asked, Is there sorrow in your heart that you've never spoken aloud?" And she wept. So many parents don't realize that the suppressed weight of their own pain can twist itself into karmic knots, knots their children end up carrying. Not because the parent is bad or wrong, but because no one ever taught them how to cleanse what they've held inside for so long. Have you ever asked yourself, why does my child become withdrawn when I'm sad? Why do they have nightmares when I'm anxious? It's not coincidence. It's the deep energetic bond between your life force and the emotional climate your child breathes in every day. I once met a father, a successful businessman. He barely spoke to his teenage son, always busy. His son, 14 years old, barely spoke either. He was irritable, withdrawn, and had frequent stomach pain with no diagnosis. This father came to the monastery, not to pray, not to seek a miracle, but just to sit in silence. After a few days of quiet reflection, he broke down before the Buddha statue and said, "Bhante, I've never forgiven my father. He abandoned my mother and me. And I think I've spent my whole life trying to prove I'm strong instead of learning how to be a soft, present dad." I looked at him and said, "As long as you're still holding anger toward your father, your son will stay trapped between 2 generations of unresolved karma. If you want to lift your son's burden, you have to begin by lightening your own." The Buddha once taught, the one who turns inward first is the one who begins to untie the karmic knots, binding the whole family. What does that mean? It means every time you sit down and truly reflect, you're loosening an invisible chain. Every time you pause to feel your own pain, you're lifting a weight your child no longer has to carry. To return, to repent, to reflect is not about guilt. It's about recognizing our humanity, that we too have wounds, and we too have the capacity to heal. Some may ask, why should my child suffer for the things I haven't healed? I don't have the perfect answer, but I believe children often arrive at the perfect time to help us finally face the truths we've run from. You might have lived your whole life believing you had no right to be vulnerable. And yet, when you see your child cry, you suddenly recognize a part of yourself in them. You may have thought you were strong until your child reacts to you in the exact way you once reacted to your own parents. So, if your child is in pain, start by softening your own heart. You don't need to clear karma in some mystical way. Just spend 10 quiet minutes each day to breathe slowly, listen inwardly, and say to yourself with honesty, I acknowledge the anger, fear, and sadness I've never named, and I vow to transform them with understanding and compassion. You won't see instant results, but you'll begin to feel lighter. And your child, your companion on this soul journey, will feel that too, even if you never speak of it. You cannot choose the karma your child was born with, but you can choose to be the first one who stands up to unravel it. You hold the key, and sometimes the way to unlock the door isn't through advice or knowledge, but through silence, humility, and a heart soft enough to stop passing down the pain you once inherited. If you begin to purify yourself, your child will no longer have to carry what was never theirs to begin with. And that is the most beautiful gift you can give. Dear friend, if you've stayed with me all the way to the end of this video, then I believe there is something truly beautiful in your heart. There is a part of you that wants to understand more deeply, to love more gently, and to heal not just for your children, but for yourself as well. And that is something sacred. Most of us were never taught how to be mindful parents. No one handed us a map the day our child was born. But every single day, you have the right to begin again, to choose to see your child with fresh eyes, to choose love without control, to choose to walk a spiritual path, not to become perfect, but to become lighter, for your sake and for theirs. The Buddha once said, "The greatest victory is not conquering others, but conquering yourself." And often, the hardest thing to do is not fixing your child, but honestly looking inward. If something in this video touched you, I invite you to share in the comments below a feeling, a memory, or even a quiet prayer for yourself or for your child. You never know. Your story may become a light for someone else, just like you once searched for your own. And if you'd like to keep walking this path of mindfulness, healing, and Buddhist wisdom in everyday life, please subscribe to this channel, Buddhism Seeds, so each week you can receive a new seed of peace. If this video felt helpful, please like, share, or send it to someone you know, someone who might be silently needing this kind of love today. Thank you for being here and for choosing the light